It's winter outside for sure, Arctic chill and snow that just won't melt. But here we are, nice and cozy inside, ready for a warm evening of great writing. Hello from New York City. Welcome to FBOMB, a monthly reading series. I am Francine Witte, your host. And the FBOMB series was started by Paul Beckman, who is here tonight and will be reading in just a little while. We have a wonderful lineup tonight, lots of great words, and we'll be flying around. So sit back, enjoy a nice hot drink, knowing you have the best seat in the house. Okay, I always like to start with a piece of my own just to kind of warm things up, get things going. So I'm going to read a story called Road Trip, 1958. The father doesn't know where he's going. He tells the mother to pull out the map from the glove compartment. Two little girls in the back seat. I want ice cream, the smaller one says. She is only 3, but already a princess. This is how she will be the rest of her life. The rest of her life, all of their lives, as it turns out, is only 10 minutes. The older girl is looking out the window, tree, license plate, then dark clouds above, clouds that are fistfuls of rain about to let go. The mother unfolds the map. It's been folded wrong, that is, not following the grooves that are part of the design pattern. This is just a mess, the mother says. The father thinks she's talking about more than the map. Outside, the sky above the highway is in the middle of wherever it is starting to darken. The road is unusually open and empty for an August Tuesday. The mother looks close at the map and says they missed the exit and they will have to go get off at the next one and turn back. She folds the map up properly and puts it back in the glove compartment. The younger daughter starts to cry again about ice cream, and the mother fishes a Tootsie Roll out of her pocketbook. The younger daughter grabs it from her mother's hand the way she grabbed her own life. Surprise baby that she was. The baby that would fix things, the mother finally hoped. Instead of what did happen, which was to drive the father even farther into himself, into late nights at the office and strange perfume. I better get gas, the father says. He looks at the gas gauge, almost on empty, almost too late. The older daughter is the one who sees the truck coming wrong way out of nowhere. It is a giant whale smile of grill and headlights. It is huge and holds the entire future for them, seconds really. And she doesn't even have time to warn her father, who was looking down at the radio, snapping on some music to cheer them up, Elvis or something. Or the mother, who was looking for another piece of candy to give to her unwanted daughter, anything to fill her up. Or the unwanted younger daughter herself, whose mouth is open, really open, either waiting to take a bite of Tootsie Roll or else about to scream. Cheerful, cheerful story. Okay, so let's get started. Hey, our first reader is the lovely Amy Marques. Amy Marques strives with varying degrees of success to say more using less words. Her collaborative books include Are You Willing and Never Afters, as well as and two other authors are here as well. Christine, right? Christine H. Chen and Mickey Aronoff. Congratulations to you all. As well as the duets, anthologies. She edits and illustrates. Amazing. Her books include parts and footnotes. More of her art and words are at amybookwhisperer.wordpress.com. Amy Marques.
Thank you. That story you read is one of my favorite of yours, so I love that that's how it started. It is kind of sad, but it's beautiful. I'm going to read from Never Afters. I have my copy here, and Christine and Mickey are here. And we put together fairy tales and quasi fairy tales, and they're all illustrated. So I'll go from Francine sad to a humorous one, I hope. And I'll start with the story called Never After. So, never after. Once upon a time, they say. But it's not once upon a time. That's the part nobody tells you about until it's too late. It's never once. It's over and over and over, time and again. And even happily ever afters, if you get one, are ruined every time a child says, "Read it again." Roland Wolf rebelled. He was tired of burning his tail off, so he got sent where all the naysayers and fractured fairies and truants go. The juvenile school for disruptive characters. He hated it there. Every once upon a time, 3 of the little pigs would set off from Swine Hamlet to be Pig 1, Pig 2, and Pig 3. Now that most of the fairy world had gone vegan, the pig population had exploded, so it was easy for them to take turns. Sometimes they used names. More often, they just go by first little pig, second little pig, and third little pig. They'd even taken to using pre-molded walls to make the building faster. Easy job. Good pay, even if they did have to share with too many siblings. But wolves are loners, and Roland was an only child. He couldn't take it anymore. He begged them to let the lions share the role. But the cowardly lion could barely get his voice pitched loud enough to be heard inside the pigs' houses, and the wild lion had hired the net-gnawing mouse as an agent, and now nobody could afford him. And when they tried to get a golden retriever to wear a mane to do his stunts, instead of climbing down the chimney of the third little pig's house, he just played fetch with the sticks blown away from the second house and lost the mane in the swan's lake. It was embarrassing even, so unprofessional. Roland hated the obedience school. Everything was by the book. Why, the other day, the new Ella was sweeping ashes, and the tin soldier hid in the chimney, slipping into the fireplace when she fake cried, and popped out, half burned and heart aflame, declaring himself her prince. Everyone thought it was a hysterical solution, but the headmaster was not amused. Oh well, the joke was on them. Roland Wolf joined the Fractured Club. They met on the second cloud every third rain, and Mother Goose was the club faculty member. She didn't believe in micromanaging and mostly let her pupils run with their ideas as long as they were plausible and entertaining, and they filled out the 3-page form to justify their proposed story changes. She was a stickler for thorough paperwork. The fox was their most valuable group member. He could argue his way out of anything. So it was that once upon the next time the headmaster of the juvenile school for disruptive characters pulled out a book from the shelf to test his charges, Roland was called to the stage with 3 swine. There were only 2 swine in the school, so one offered to be both first and third pig. He could just slip on a flannel shirt to work on the brick house, and most readers would never know the difference. Roland's heart pounded as he watched fairy set creator poof the chimney onto the stage. Third little pig would build around it. He hoped Fractured Fairy could work her magic in time, and it began. The pigs left their hamlet in search of adventure. The first little pig made a sloppy home of hay. Roland huffed and puffed, and the pig pulled the flannel on as he ran to the chimney to become the third pig. The second pig made a house of wooden panels. After the golden retriever played fetch with the sticks, he stuck to panels and electric power drills. Roland huffed and puffed, and the second pig went to join his sibling. The third house was always charming. Roland wished he could just live in it, by himself, tend to the garden, raise tomatoes, maybe keep a chicken or 2 in the yard. But he could play his part, so he called and taunted to the pigs and threatened to blow the house down. They chanted back, and he huffed and he puffed and half-heartedly blew, so the bougainville growing on the side of the brick wall lost a few flowers that flew into Fractured Fairy's hair and made her glare at him. "Is it done?" Roland mouthed the words quickly before huffing and puffing once more for good measure. She gave him a look of pure disdain under her heavily lidded eyeshadow. She always was feistier than the rest. Roland blew the hair away from her face and smiled when for a minute she lost her sulk. Roland climbed up the trellis and over the roof and into the chimney. It was all there, a net, a bag of prime slosh feed, a fake tail, and a fire extinguisher, just as he'd requested. Oh, he'd scream and wave the fake tail a little for good measure, but nobody was getting burnt or eaten between the lines tonight. That's a fun one. And I think do I have time for one more, Francine?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And I'll do one of my favorites in the book, and it's Aftertaste. Aftertaste. After her weekly visit with her grandbaby Alice, Nan marches off to lunch. She isn't mad. That's just how she walks now. She no longer glides, isn't sure if she's ever glided. Every step has her feet come fully off the ground and over ubiquitous, I should not have chosen this, obstacles, pebbles, sidewalk crackles, fallen leaves. No shuffling. Shuffling cometh before the fall. She hasn't fallen. Not recently, anyway, but she marches, her upper body angled forward in a constant tilt, counterbalancing the weight of the world, dangling her continuously on the edge of a trip. At the restaurant, Nan orders mashed potatoes, safe food, bland food, non-confrontational food. There's a smudge on her plate, so she wipes the edges with a napkin and rearranges the mashed potatoes into a perfectly round mound. She comes here because this is the kind of place where the staff asks no questions. There aren't many places like this anymore. These days, good customer service is too often equated with familiarity. But Nan would rather not say if she has other plans for her evening, she doesn't, or whether today is a special occasion, it isn't, or even whether or not her meal is to her satisfaction, it is. All she wants is to survive a meal she didn't prepare and dishes she won't have to wash, surrounded by enough elevator music to drown out the chewing and throat clearing and coughing and spilling and clacking. She focuses on the potato. Carbs are the best choice to mask the aftertaste of dissension. Disagreements had once been Nan's bread and butter. She'd been a mediator, a facilitator. She'd helped so many people over countless debacles, but it's so much more difficult to be one of the parties in the conflict. Today, Alice's parents had argued about audiobooks. Are they even books? Should they allow Alice to listen and call it reading? Will print books go in the way of cursive and slates and drawing on sand? And are those who disagree with us crazy, stupid, or do they maybe have a point? They always have a point, Nan knows. Sometimes it's a sharp point, and as she processes and digests, it pricks and pokes at her from the insides. Sometimes their ideas melt in her mouth and wash down her throat like a glass of sweet iced tea, only to sink her stomach and churn her insides until she manages to purge herself of the poison. She scoops up some of the potato and watches as a thin sliver of steam rises from the spoon. Alice's parents don't believe in Yukon Gold potatoes. There are many, many things they do and don't believe in. Nan can't ignore them, can't alienate them either. She'd been vocal once, when they said they were in love, when they'd said they were moving across the country, when they said she could either treat them like grown-ups or never see them again. To think that she'd once thought that retirement would mean she could relax in soothing consensus. After years of no family trips or awkward Thanksgiving dinners, here she was, walking on eggshells to preserve a relationship she thought she'd lost forever. But the minute they'd introduced her to little Alice, they'd become a family again, for better or worse. The mound of potatoes had become a cold, uneaten landslide. Nan drinks her water and knows that it'll only make things worse. She's been swallowing questions all morning, and they grow inside of her until she wonders whether she'll have time to get home or if she should suffer the indignity of using the restaurant's powder room. Who gets to decide how much is too much and whether it's free speech or just old-fashioned rudeness? Should books and ideas be banned along with old-fashioned words? Is it wrong to obfuscate past mistakes to keep the peace? Or does unacknowledged history fester and chafe until tiny interruptions abort ideas and explode entire minefields? Nan places two $10 bills next to her uneaten food. It should be enough. The mashed potatoes couldn't soothe her nerves this time. She marches to the powder room, scanning the ground before each step, praying she won't run into a server with a tray. Fully clothed, Nan sits on the closed toilet lid, pulls out her notebook, and catches each question as it regurgitates out of her and glues it to the notebook before it can splatter on the floor. Is nut milk even milk? Is it okay to sleep in, or should we all be up at the crack of dawn even though there are no cows to milk or chickens to feed? Is whistling sweet or annoying? Is it okay if babies listen to pop music instead of Beethoven? Does it matter if we place a slightly unwashed juice bottle into recycling, or does it contaminate the whole lot? Should all lullabies be screamed for harmful messaging? Not everything makes it into the notebook. She can't always control the flow. If she'd been home, she'd have thrown up all her words into a basket to be sorted out later. She's not home. She gazes at the splattered mess on the floor, unschooling and art for art's sake and gender and school shootings and gun laws and pronouns and privacy and healthcare and lawmaking and language and true crime and porn and history and science fiction and whether or not it's a cruelty to bring more children into the world. She should scoop it up. She shouldn't leave her mess for someone else to clean up. She should stuff it back down her throat, keep it down, digest it, let it grow her, strengthen her, maybe destroy her. But she can't. She marches away, emptied, but no lighter. And thank you. I'll end there.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was wonderful. And be sure to put in the chat where we can get that wonderful book, Hereafter. Hereafter, Never Afters. Never Afters by Amy Marques, Mickey Aronoff, Christine H. Chen. So it's promises to be a wonderful read, and loved what you read. Amy Marques, thank you for being here with us tonight. Paul, are you ready? Because Karen's not here, so we're gonna jump ahead with you, if that's okay. Okay.
Fine.
All right. Okay, let me just introduce you then. So I mentioned in the in my little cold open that we had Paul Beckman in the house, which is very exciting because he's the reason we're even here tonight. Paul created this wonderful series. It was originally in person at the KGB bar down in the East Village, and that's where I met Paul and several of you here in the audience. I've met there in person. So it's very exciting to have him here with us tonight. Paul Beckman's latest flash collection is Becoming Mirsky, Chervena-Barbara Press, a fictional memoir in flash, which was the finalist for the 2024 Indie Book Awards. His stories have appeared in Fiction, Litro, Pank, Playboy, Wink, Argonaut, Jellyfish Review, 10 by 10, The Wax Paper, Monkey, and Fictive Dream. He started the FBOMB Flash Fiction series in New York's KGB and curated it for 9 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the very wonderful Paul Beckman.
Thank you, Franny. The story was published in December of 2025 in the Argonaut. It's called Armorer. This will be an exciting day for the kids. It will be the culmination of 1 hour and 40 minutes of action, chase action, hiding action, stealing, smoking, and above all, we must be quiet action. Because if we are not quiet, we won't be allowed on the set or go into the saloon to eat with the others. And there are so many warnings. We 12 and 13-year-olds will bite our lips to not utter a sound. The mise en scene is the Buckhorn Saloon. It is wide, almost 40 feet, with the roof overhanging the front porch. The center has a pair of louvered swinging doors, and the front has wide steps leading to the porch. And in front of the porch, there are 2 signs. On the left one reads, "Tie your horses," and the right, "Buckboards and wagons." The crew that's not in the shot and the guests are all seated behind a red chalk line. The director walks out with his assistant and tosses him a fist-sized ball of twine, and the assistant's assistant holds the twine while his assistant takes the ball of red chalk and rubs the twine from one end to the other. And then the first assistant and his assistant walk the 40 feet from the saloon and tie the twine into a nail on each end of the saloon and snap the line, and the dirt and red chalk dust flies up, and the assistant gets a nod from the director and quick runs and pulls up the nails and rolls up the twine. And then the fourth assistant hurries out of the buckhorn that carried wood chairs and rockers and scurries back in. The director, who also happens to be star of this Western, yells places, and the guests and extras not in the scene take seats behind the red line. The star/director stands off to the side with his Palomino horse, and the cameramen get into their positions. The woman, the star director's wife, stands in front of the swinging doors while the assistant director comes over to her and turns her just a bit and gets a thumbs up from the cameraman. The assistant director yells armament and sits on a rocker, 2 away from the female. A young girl, a teenager really, who is the daughter of a Hollywood armorer, walks over with a wood box the size of a jewelry box, stands in front of the star director and opens the box, revealing an old-fashioned 6-shooter and a 6-pack of shining bullets. The director asks if the bullets are cold or hot, meaning filled with blanks or gunpowder. She says cold, and he yells cold and tells her to load the gun, and she does so quickly and then skedaddles behind the red line. The star director yells action and shoves the gun in his holster, takes off his hat, smacks his leg with it, blowing the dirt dust everywhere. The star director yells, ready, quiet, and the lady star walks out of swinging doors, turns towards the star director, and pushes her right chap away and places her hand just above her pistol and makes a sudden move to push the chap away, and again. The star director pulls his pistol, a shot is heard, and the star director runs to the wife, who wasn't drawing her gun, and before he reaches her, she crumbles to the ground. The director star yells, break, as the female star, his wife lay in a pool of blood. The kids behind the red line, the ones who got to go to work with their parents, whistled and clapped, but didn't understand how long she had to lie there.
Wow. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. Well, wow, great to have you back. That was quite a good story, Paul. So
Thank you.
Hope to see more of you around these parts. Thank you. That's wonderful, Paul Beckman. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Next, we're going to hear from Kathryn Silver-Hajo. Kathryn Silver-Hajo's work appears in many lovely journals, was selected for the 2023, 24, and 25 Wigleaf Top 50 long lists, and nominated for the Best American Short Stories, Best of the Net, Pushcart Prize, Best Microfiction, Best Small Fictions, and Best American Food Writing. Kathryn's award-winning books include Flash Collection Wolf Song and the novel Roots of the Banyan Tree. More at KathrynSilver-Hajo.com. Kathryn Silver-Hajo.
Thank you, Francine. It's really fun to be here and see so many familiar faces. And my news that a lot of you know already is that I have a new Flash collection coming out in October 2026 from Cowboy Jamboree. So stay tuned. There'll be more about that coming up soon. I will read 3 micros. I think that'll probably take just about up the time. The first one is forthcoming from Bull. Blizzard. Andy hides from the other kids in the igloo they built from snow up to their waists. Out the tiny door, he sees cars sliding, parents picking up children, but not his. He hears excited voices. 20 inches already, traffic jammed, phone lines down. Now everyone's gone. Andy wishes he hadn't hidden, that someone had noticed. He starts walking, snow filling his boots, stinging his face. 2 cars go by, but not the little red one with the big dent. His legs ache and he leans into a snowdrift, his eyes tearing, snot running onto his upper lip. It's starting to get dark, and he wishes he was home drinking hot chocolate with marshmallows from his Oscar the Grouch mug, watching his mother prepare a big tray of baked macaroni and cheese with butter and crumbs on top, the way it smells when it turns brown and crunchy on the edges. But their house with its triangle roof and brick chimney is too far away, and he's never walked alone, isn't sure how to get there by himself. Andy covers his face with his gloved hands, imagines how his dad's mustache curls into a smile when he helps Andy stack blocks into a tower or sound out words in If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. How he'd be saying, 1 foot in front of the other, son, 1 in front of the other. Cue. The next one was in Gooseberry Pie's 2nd anniversary issue this past January, and I was very delighted to have it be part of that special issue. Knots. Tanya yanks the ends of her new clothesline tight, but when she begins pinning the damp laundry, the ties come undone, sheets and shirts landing in the dirt, the words, "Can't you do a damn thing right?" echoing in her head, and she's 12 again, always forgetting a homework assignment or mixing things up. Like when she fetched her stepfather the wrong tool, and he said, "Claw hammer, not tack hammer, Dumbo," barking a nicotine-coarsened laugh. And Tanya shrugged his hand off her shoulder, bristling at the, "Come on, don't be so sensitive," that landed like the nails he was pounding into the rotting shed door. Tanya drops to her knees, gathers up the soiled garments, brushes them off. She's always dried her laundry outside, on hangers, over chairs, on tree branches. Loves how it flutters free in the breeze, smells like fresh air and sun. So old-fashioned, she thinks. Couldn't I just use a dryer like everyone else? She suddenly sits upright, looks at the frayed end of the rope, laughs aloud. Or I could just Google how to make a fucking knot. Cute. How am I
Hey.
doing on time? Should I read 1 or 2 more? They're
Yeah,
all
you can read 2 more if they're
2 more?
short.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. This one was published in December in New Flash Fiction Review, and it was a finalist in their 25 Flash contest that was judged by Grant Faulkner. My brother, the salmon. He's swimming upstream again, dogged and lean, ready to spawn his latest ideas. I wonder aloud if perhaps he doesn't need to have all the answers. If I don't want to be an egg factory or be beholden to the rules of the school, that should be my business. So I say, hey, let's meet back up in the wide open ocean. We could break with tradition, have a leisurely lull in the tide pools that smell of seaweed and sun-baked snails, gulls scolding overhead. We'd nab pink crabs and purple-shelled periwinkles, enjoy a happy-go-lucky day. He could pretend to be an actual brother, and we'd do actual sibling things like go to the Coral Reef ice cream shop to slurp squid ink sodas with krill ice cream through striped straws clutched between pouty lips. We could have a little back and forth about the hellish habits of humans dumping their junk in the sea, ruminate on the rumor we heard about slippery cousin trout. No doubt an old fishwife's tale, I'd say with a smirk. But his firm cheeks go wobbly and limp, like I've deflated him, like I don't get it. Like why don't I welcome him, blowing iridescent bubbles of brilliance my way? His salty kid sister always sticking it to him. Why won't I just open my gills, drink in his pearls? I clamp my mouth shut, fan out feathery fins, swim towards the light. Breaking the surface, I gasp for breath before realizing I have lungs. I test them out by screaming into the briny air. Thank you. Thanks so much. And the last one, it was published in Tiny Molecules in October. A Blaze. My parents both died in October, and I light 2 pear candles 5 days apart to sit with the feeling of them in flickers and whispers, the flame bobbing atop melting beeswax while I bake squash, scowl at the news, stroke the moss-soft head of my dog. They loved autumn, loved raking leaves into towering heaps for my sister and me to dive bomb and demolish, and it seems more fitting to die when things are dying all around, more suitable than springtime, with its abundance of life taking root, shooting through still hard soil with confounding vigor and strength, sassy with energy and what me worry forget-me-nots. My parents died in October, and though summer is all soul-soothing warmth, life-renewing kindness and ease, October teeters between shadow and light, inviting reflection and taking stock. It never promises more than it can deliver, offers without apology its chill wind, its bounty of wood smoke and wool. My parents died in October, as leaves turn vainglorious vermilion, honey, and flame, a blaze of swagger and swank, of we are still here, never forget us, before dropping gentle, gentle to the cooling earth.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. That was
Thanks.
beautiful. And
Thank you.
did I promise all of you some gorgeous words flying around here? So there you go. I would, like I like to turn on my captions so I don't miss one syllable, and because I like to read along. So I feel free to turn on your captions. They're at the bottom there. I find it very helpful. So I wanted to, I'm always stunned at not only the people who are reading, but the people here in the Zoom room are some of the best flash fiction writers around. So I just want to give them a metaphorical tip of the hat. And because I know that you could be, I don't know, you could be watching the Olympics for crying out loud. Bill Merkley, Mickey Aronoff, Christine H. Chen, Amy Lyons, Niles Reddick, Benjamin Zito, Meghana Karanjakar, Norma Jennings, Jean Butterfield, and Mileva Anastasia Dew. If I missed you, put in the chat, like, hey, you missed me, and I'll shout you out the next time around. Okay, well, welcome to all of you. It's really lovely to have you all here tonight. Next, we're going to hear from Gary Fincke. Gary Fincke's latest books, both 2025, are The Necessary Going On Selected Poems from Press 53 and After Arson, new and selected essays from Madville Braddock Avenue Books will publish The Comfort of Taboos, more selected stories this summer. Because Gary is sort of like a slacker, you see, and if that weren't enough, he is co-editor of the annual anthology Best Microfiction, which we all love so much. Everybody, please welcome Gary Fincke.
Thanks, Francine. I think I'm going to read 3 short ones that are pretty close to being microfictions, according to the way Meg and I call it, which is 400 words or fewer. And all those volumes are published by Pelicanesis. And Pelicanesis is who does my flash books so far. So what I'm going to do, because I have a brand new book coming from them in August. So I decided I was going to read one short piece from each of these, show off my daughter's artwork one more time, because Mark loves my daughter's artwork and she's happy to do covers for me. But so this first one's called Cow, and it's from the corridors of longing, the first of these three. It snorts and stares at us, the sides of its white spotted black body heaving. My 2-year-old says cow and points. There isn't a soul in sight, no neighbors gawking, no farmer chasing after and hollering out bossy or patches at this half-grown cow that suddenly bellows out a sound so long and mournful that my 5-year-old crawls to me, spilling her teacup and begins to wail, while the 2-year-old loops her arms around my neck in a silent chokehold. 2 miles from anything resembling a farm, a cow in a Washington street yard is more than an uncommon thing. Yet here it is, I want to say thundering, but that would be a lie, loping to a stop right in front of where my girls and I are having a tea party under the willow in our corner lot. That cow isn't leaving like I hope it might. It seems unwilling to trot into the street beyond the willow. Our backyard is fenced in. Nowhere to go but backwards that will keep it on grass. With a huff that sounds like it's deflating, it settles on the lawn. There is a string of lots, but ours is the only one on our side of the street with a tree of any size. The rest are dogwoods and weeping cherries and a lot of those evergreen bushes shaped into balls or cones or just trimmed flat like a military haircut. Maybe that cow is looking for shade large enough to fit inside, and that's what I am afraid of when it stands again and noses under that tree with us, the girls going mute and clutching me. Daddy, the young one whispers. Daddy, the older one says aloud, Daddy. The cow nuzzles against me. It licks my face, and my daughters, seeing that big slurping tongue, stop calling for their father, who's been gone for 3 weeks now. The younger one reaches out her hand and touches the cow's nose, saying wet and letting go of my neck. The older one silently touches the cow's face, feeling the texture of its skin. For nearly a minute, the cow stands still and lets them touch. When it turns away, tail switching behind it and slapping against the drooping branches, both girls say "Mommy" at the same time, and we watch that cow amble away, beginning to gather speed as it crosses lawns until it becomes a speck, something we stare at, even though by now it is so small it can be anything at all. The second one, more artwork, called The History of the Baker's Dozen. And again, a fairly short one. This one actually, I still mentor students in our creative writing program since I retired. So every fall I have 3 or 4 juniors or seniors, and this student just gave me this story. I don't know if she's ever going to read it since she's since graduated, but it's called Beauty. When Shelley gets to college, she learns that money is as necessary as her half of a room and prepaid cafeteria meals. That most of her classmates used money like air and water, repeatedly, without thinking, expecting the same from everyone else, including her. Sure, there was menial work available in the cafeteria with a maintenance crew, or a bit better as a clerk in the library or department office. But at minimum wage, Shelley shelved books and updated magazines for 3 months without changing anything. 2 weeks' wages spent in 1 day. She heard about the escorts scattered among older students. She didn't have the body, she thought, or the face, or the indecency. But she remembered how often her feet were praised. How, when she wore sandals, someone would say, "You're so cute down there with your painted toenails and smooth skin." She could model a job that had potential. An entrepreneur now, she made a portfolio. She submitted her feet. For a week, she expected agencies to contact her, or Etsy sellers who needed promotion, shoe companies, podiatry websites, some site beside the ones popular with creeps. For another month, she waited. She used that time to investigate. If only the weird would pay for her feet, she needed to be sure they never found her. Anonymous wasn't a perk. Sure, the site charged a 20% fee on all her sales, but it didn't require an ID, something even protected, impossible to perfectly secure, even with an anonymous email and only digital payments. She trimmed her toenails. She practiced poses, the varieties of color and design, glitter, the ways to seduce and please, how much to charge. If she resisted additional exposure, she was selling such a small part of herself that it wasn't like selling it at all. No different than cleaning up after the rich and careless. Souls were desired, close ups, spread toes were admired, arches sexy, curves created when she stood on her toes, or her feet in heels, one sleek shoe dangling near jewelry, flowers, or lit candles set along a marble floor. Her mother had always said, "Show your best side." There were men who hungered for exactly that. They paid to dream, leaving her untouched and unknown. She would never tell on herself, not this beauty she'd become, the best part of her adored. I have cover for the third book, but my daughter's working on it. And this is going to be the first story, and it's quite short. So this is how the book's called In the Light and Dark. This story is called Forsythia. His father, before the boy was born, had planted forsythia, a border to separate their yard on two sides from the corner of a slurry-sealed alleys. He promised that each April would be stunning, his mother told him, and paused to quietly cough. But forsythia is a month of beauty and half a year of care. By now, her private aches were public. Her future, even at rest, was unable to catch its breath. The small yard of forsythia, half enclosed, was marred by an eczema of weeds. After her first operation, his mother had taken the latest experimental drug, explaining that miracles were being tested at a distant hospital. After the second surgery, her dresses in late August hung over her body like drapes. During the weekend before school began, she held the clothes he would grow into against his chest and legs, dressing him for classes and church for a year, showing him why he needed to furiously study, launching a sermon on pride and envy that ended with her guarantee he would thank her for the yearly lessons provided by the ill-fitting and out of style. When she carried a shirt to the window for close inspection, she declared the cloud-parting weather heavenly. Left standing with arms extended for size, the boy tried to tear his eyes from the stacked layers of seventh grade clothes to come. They looked something like inevitability, like her driving him slowly down the narrow alley past the forsythia-shrouded yard, the light at the corner as it had been for a year, out and never replaced. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Gary. That was just wonderful. Gary Fincke. You had people like on the edge of their seats, really. And you couldn't see because you were reading, but I was watching. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Next, we're going to hear from Christopher Bowen. Is Christopher here?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay, Christopher Bowen, author of We Were Giants. When I Return to You, I Will Be Unfed, and Debt, was semifinalist in the 2017 Faulkner Wisdom Novella Competition and honorable mention in the 45th New Millennium Writing Awards in the nonfiction category. His short story collection, The Things They Forgot to Tell Us When They Left, is forthcoming from Chervena Barber Press. Yay! Christopher Bowen.
Thank you, Francine. How you doing, everybody? I'm going to read a couple short stories here. I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. This first one is called How Industry Left Us. I owe him cash only for the month at the apartment on the Lower West Side of the city. So the landlord meets me in his work van for plumbing outside the building. 3 floors tall, it was founded on salt, the salt factory that doesn't make so much salt, or the salt of the earth. Directly across Main from us is a street taking you to the factory, like chutes and ladders, like a board game. There are houses lined up there, beaten by time and antiquity, and boarded up for lack of a certain salt. The messy woman comes hustling from across the street. I leave the building for work, but she stops to talk to some people outside. And I pass while I'm carrying my laundry for the laundromat and hear it through the train coming there a block down. They got none. I tried, but there were none. Salt and rocks. This is the end stop for many, but for others, it's also the beginning of a necessary story meant to be told in the past tense, like this very text. A man who calls himself Rebel sits outside the building late nights and sometimes throughout the town. I see him at the gas station riding his bicycle. It has saddlebags. He stops to ask a car ride, a cigarette, or how myself or someone else has his back. He and his old lady are off and on. He's not allowed to ride a real motorcycle. He tells me when I leave my car lights on. Sometimes you can hear him out there late afternoons or early evenings or in the middle of the night in the gravel apartment building parking lot. He comes from the shadows of the basement under the fire escape staircase like a rooster set to crow to the brick of it, and no one there really to listen. A police officer and some lady with a clipboard and pencil tell me they've seen better days just outside my door. Just seen better days. Visiting the neighbor, I think they are child and family services. The baby is new, and the mother won't open the door. I ask, is there something I should be aware of? No, the officer says, shaking his head and scanning the floor. We've just seen better days. I look down at the stained hallway carpeting in front of my apartment door and feel ashamed. There's nothing to be aware of here, nothing to see, and here has always seen better days. The building has people swept up beneath the carpet, and though I know I pass through now, amongst them still I enter. Everything closes for lack of business in America, a city at a time in the evenings, but not here. A man is huddled in the corner of my hallway not long after the town lights go out, who doesn't know the building never closes. With a blue tarp around him and some snacks on the windowsill, some juice and Pop-Tarts, he opens his eyes. I ask what he's doing here. He mumbles something and I say, don't be here in the morning, and if it happens again, I call the cops. You have to forgive sometimes. Sometimes you have to let one slide. I open my eyes some more. I sleep a floor above him in my one bedroom, both of us, our eyes open somehow the night over, either because of the ambulance runs or the things on how I owe the landlord, how somehow he owes me, leading me downstairs to work every day, leading me to places I never thought existed, to a better future. There are probably decades or more in the life of the building, like the line of the train that passes at 2:30 a.m. every night, a block away, shooting cuss words across town, blaring them like a locomotive whistle. It carries with it the homeless man with the blue tarp. This second one, it appeared in the Argonaut. It's called Sold. How much was it all he and you worth? It seems to all have been sold down a river. He'll end up shattering like glass, too. The kind that spider webs with cracks but still holds, you think. Remembering him holding you like the bear, tightly across the back, with arms folded across your chest, his beard across your neck, a guillotine making you swoon. How tightly he killed you softly. He'll spend the cash on guilty pleasures, no doubt, you think to yourself. Enter the doorway without a push. The same held open so often is unlocked. Memories flood in and you blame him. They're the new you and he the door ajar. Broke Jake, so messy in all his brokenness and planning, his inability to forecast the future with you like a weatherman giving the forecast. Held doors open and could fix them even. Like the time the two of you argued so red hot that you slammed it off its bottom hinge and it almost fell atop you. How you were so unhinged, and he quietly walked on glass for a week, repairing it in silence. Leave the package, a gift for the next occupants, on the dining room table. Straighten the only picture in the hallway. The house is otherwise empty. It is hollow. It was sold $100 million ago. There are bluebirds singing. Thank you, everyone.
That was wonderful, Christopher. Christopher Bowen, who I had the pleasure of meeting the first time in Colorado at Nancy Stolman and Kathy Fish's workshop, retreat, actually. And it was really wonderful. And it was nice to meet Chris then. And it's kind of a good segue because our next reader was also at that retreat and was where I met her. So let's hear from Chelsea Stickle, who is the author of the flash fiction chapbooks Everything's Changing from 30 West Publishing House 2023 and Breaking Points Black Lawrence Press 2021. She lives in Annapolis, Maryland with her black rabbit, George. Read more at chelseastickle.com. Chelsea Stickle.
Thank you, Francine. And thank you for hosting this. I'm so excited to be back at FBOMB. Tonight, I will be reading 3 micros. The first one was recently published at Jake. It's called Step Right Up and Hear the Siren Song. First, they dropped the siren into a sound-modified booth that stripped her song of its temptation. Across the top of the siren's booth, they painted, "Can you resist the siren song?" in lascivious red. Another rigged game. Then the siren lost her voice altogether. Use it or lose it, her mother had warned, through puffs of smoke. Without the power of her song, she was just a woman in a box. Nothing special. One glance inside, and all the people saw was a depressed woman on a stool with nothing to do all day. To liven things up, they installed a button that played an AI-generated vocal. This allowed people to insert a coin and tempt destiny. When a couple approached, the man vowed to love none other than his beloved, to refuse the siren song that even Odysseus could not. As the song played, he stared into his beloved's eyes for as long as she could hold it. But when the woman looked into the booth, she saw the siren pressing her lips together so hard they were white. She saw the still muscles in the siren's thin neck, the sweat dripping from her unkempt hair, the darkness under her eyes. The siren's eyes met hers, and the woman saw a childhood friend, her cool neighbor in college, the milk carton girl. The woman approached the glass and pressed her hand against it. "Hello." It wasn't cheering or demanding. It was simply there. The siren matched her. "Hello." The glass between them cracked. Thank you. So my next two micros were both originally published in Ghost Parachute and are going to be both of them anthologized in different places. The first one is called Listen to Your Body. The doctors couldn't determine what was causing the thumping, fluttering agony in my chest, the dread that haunted me and kept me awake nights. X-rays, MRIs, CTs had no answers. Finally, I told them to cut me open and find out what couldn't be exposed in a scan, but insurance wouldn't cover that. On the third night in a row without rest, my bleary red eyes landed on my chef's knife. The wooden handle was impossibly smooth and cool against my palm. Listen to your body, the acupuncturist had said. So I did. I sliced open my chest and discovered a red-eyed, white bunny, fluffy soft and glistening with blood. A bunny doesn't need a big bad to die. Fear is enough. I loosened my grip and cooed. I bundled the bunny close like a baby and stroked its head between the ears. You're fine, I whispered. You're safe now. I've got you. Thank you. This is my last micro. It was recently chosen for the Ghost Parachute anthology. It's called A Little R&R. One night, soil falls out of my mouth, loamy and sandy, piles and piles on my kitchen floor. I fight the urge to roll in it, feel it brush against my skin, clump it together in my fists. Instead, I sweep it into a pile on the tile. I'll figure out what to do with it tomorrow. In the morning, my body is stiff and covered in brown flakes instead of hair. Underneath the flakes, my skin is shiny and pore-free. The hair on my head is twinned together in sections, kinked and curled. Maybe it's a trick of light, but my hair looks more fair. Exhausted, I can barely keep my legs up at the sink. I stopped trying. Head for sustenance in the kitchen. The toast I butter tastes like dirt. The dirt on the floor tastes like buttery steak with a loaded baked potato. I plant myself in the pile I made, rake it closer with my fingers, luxuriating in the way it strokes me. Silt like silk. My feet curl toward my bottom. I wrap my arms around my knees, twist toward the sun. My ropey hair turns white. My gleaming body hardens, tips sideways to the floor, where my roots tongue the soil. I'm not tired anymore. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Chelsea. Chelsea Stickle. And I wanted to say there in their second story, there was that very Chekhov moment, if you have a gun in a story, it better, someone better get shot. Soon as we heard the knife, we knew something was coming. You did that just so beautifully.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I've had that feeling too. It's like, just cut me open and find it. Just find it. Loved it. Great reading, Chelsea. And thank you for being here. I just wanted to, that's Chelsea Stickle. And everybody feel free to put your book information or your website information in the chat. Don't be shy. I wanted to mention that I got an email from Karen Schober. She will not be joining us. She was picking up her daughter at the airport and the plane just landed. So she apologizes to everyone for not being here. Okay, so next we have Andrea Marcusa. Andrea Marcusa's writings have appeared in Milk Candy Review, Ghost Parachute, Citron Review, Moon City Review, Cut Bank, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Smoke Lung, Best Microfiction, and Cleaver, Prime Number, and is the author of the chapbook, What We Now Live With, Bottle Cap Press. She's a member of the faculty at the Writers Studio in New York City and a flash fiction editor at Cleaver Magazine. Andrea Marcusa.
Thanks, Francine, and thanks so much for putting together such a great roster of readers tonight. It's a little daunting reading with you, especially after Chelsea. You totally creeped me out with that second story, but I loved it, you know. So, but I'm gonna creep animal lovers out. Yeah, there is animal cruelty in this story, but if you live in New York City, you'll get it. This one is called, I'm going to read two short pieces. The first one is called Bait. I committed murder last night. I shoved the writhing mouse into the porcelain bowl and held it there until it stilled. I'm usually kind to animals and small children, but this invader broke into my home and raided my cupboard. It gnawed into every sweet thing I owned, a bag of chocolate chips, a package of Oreos, leaving a trail of tiny turds. He's so cute, Samantha squealed the first afternoon we saw him, rooted on the kitchen linoleum before a cookie crumb. I said he was a field mouse, lost to his family and belonged outside. Oh, said Samantha, wide-eyed and trusting, still young enough to believe her mother can do no wrong. While my daughter slept, using peanut butter as bait, I laid spring traps like landmines. For 3 mornings, I woke up early, snuck to the kitchen, only to find the peanut butter vanished and the trap empty. Then the intruder breached a new box of Raisin Bran, tearing through the cardboard and plastic, ruining my favorite breakfast. Later that day, I bought glue traps. A squeak split the quiet with a high, sharp wail. I went to make it stop. The mouse's paws were fixed to the cardboard like bugs to flypaper. I took him to the toilet. Eye to eye, I watched him drown, then flushed him. I couldn't sleep that night, kept replaying his cries, remembering his tiny, black, frightened eyes. He must have gone home to his family, I told Samantha in the morning. She had already forgotten the mouse. Her eyes had flitted to the monarch butterflies in the yard, darting, unaware of in haphazard paths, like something briefly spared. The second piece is called, this one ran in Ghost Parachute, and it's going to be in their anthology. It's called Small White Flags of Surrender. It had something to do with the dryer. We'd been playing Russian roulette with it, each load a spin of the chamber, rippling and clanking so loud the baby would stop, stare, and point as if warning us. I told you, I whined to my husband, his hand on the remote, eyes glazed by the screen, that it was going to break down. He said not to worry, it had years of life left. The way he always says, everything's fine, floating in his cloud of weed. Like a fool, I believed him, wanted to, then blink, as in on the blink. Our luck finally ran out. We'll get it fixed. Now I'm airing my clean, not dirty, laundry in our front yard. All my ugly white cotton briefs for the world to see, my private failures clipped up by their corners. The chickens cluck beneath this awning of underpants, pecking grass, so peaceful, domestic, perfectly at home. Above, my dingy, torn underwear signals surrender. A dozen small white flags snapping open. How I would love to swing like those skivvies, weightless, carefree, swaying every which way, far away from this broken down home and marriage, far from bird dung, failed parts, and my wasted good faith. I'd wave and flutter, enjoying the ride, not caring where or whether I'd land. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Andrea Marcusa. Wonderful. And I did feel that first story.
Sorry.
I said I did feel that first story.
Yes, as another New Yorker.
Yeah. But butterflies, you had butterflies in the story, and like I'm always a little creeped out by butterflies, which sounds weird, but I know how the sausage is made. And that bothers me, you know. So anyway, thank you very much for reading with us tonight, Andrea Marcusa. Okay. Next, we have Elan Barnahama, who has published 2 novels, Escape Route and Finding Bluefield. His writing has appeared in Gooseberry Pie, Paris Lit Up, Synchronized Chaos, 10 by 10 Flash Fiction, Jewish Fiction, Drunk Monkeys, Boston Accent, Syncopation Lit, HuffPost, and elsewhere. Elan has served as the flash fiction editor of Fourth Magazine, LA, a radio news reporter, and a mediocre short order cook. Elan Barnahama.
Thanks, Francine, and all the readers. I'm going to read a piece from my novel, Escape Route. I was helping a friend renew passports, and passports is, well, you'll see there's a link, and it's a piece that sparked the novel. It was a short flash fiction piece I wrote a while ago, and it was one of the sparks for the novel, which is about a narrator who's a son of Holocaust survivors who's obsessed with the Vietnam War, but also finding an escape route. And anyway, it will come out in this piece. And the narrator is named Zach. I was staring at an ad suggesting membership in the Automobile Association, the American Automobile Association, AAA, just like minor league baseball. The ad showed a car driving along a tree-lined country road, the peak of fall foliage, and it promised to help drivers find an escape from the city, to find freedom on the open road. They offered to help me plan my fall getaway and to provide maps and guidebooks. My friend Jonah had just made chocolate egg cream and sat next to me and grabbed some of my newspaper. What's an open road? I asked him. Is it like a toll-free road? The Knicks were off to a great start, he said. You got to love Nate Bowen. He was just hit a 10-foot jump shot, and then he missed a 2-foot hook shot by 4 feet. I looked up at Jonah. What? I had no idea how long I'd been staring at the paper. I couldn't remember what we were talking about because I was focused on the AAA ad. I was sure it was a sign. This was my part. I needed to find the open road. I needed to be ready to help my family escape when the U.S. decided it was their time to round up its Jews. That was what my grandfather had been trying to tell me. That was why he kept his passport near the door with his keys. He always wanted to be ready to leave. I took his passport when I helped my mom clear things out of his apartment after he died. I wasn't sure why I took it. It had been a year since my bar mitzvah, and I had been putting up bagels. I had not come up with one single idea of what my part was, what my role was, and now it was right in front of me, the open road. I needed to find an escape route for my family. Would I be ready to leave the U.S. at a moment's notice? Would I be ready to do my part if it came to that? Maybe it was better to be thinking about when it came to that. I'm going to take up running, I told Jonah. I'm going to try out for the track team in the spring, and I'm going to start running now to get in shape. Because you can't hit a curveball, Jonah said. Yep. Or a fastball, sure. But you are pretty fast, he said. And it would be fun to play a sport in high school, I said, to be on a team. Here's the thing, Jonah said. Running isn't a sport. You don't play running. Are you saying runners aren't athletes? Yeah, they're athletes, but running isn't a sport. There's no defense. You need defense. How about ping pong? Sure, like shrunken tennis, but sure. Chess? No, games are not sports. Cards, checkers, Yahtzee. Unless you can hit the other runners while you're going around the track, it's not a sport. Yahtzee is a funny word, I said. Game 7 of the World Series, Jonah said, Koufax up against the Twins. I know the game, I said. Couple of innings in, and everybody knew he didn't have a curveball, and he stopped throwing it. Again, I know the game, I said. All he had was one pitch, his fastball, and every Twin hitter knew it was coming on every pitch, and he still beat them. That was a great game, I said, realizing that I had to know what was coming, and I had to be able to react. You can't do that with running, Jonah said. If you're off your game, if you're sick, if you're injured, you're just going to lose. Well, I'm still going to go out for the track team, I said. You should, Jonah said, but when you're on the track team and I'm playing baseball, I will be sure to remind you every day that while I'm playing a game, you're just getting exercise. By Halloween, I had run through every alley, down every street, along every railroad track, and through every backyard. I had looked for caves and tunnels to hide in. I had come up empty. Running revealed nothing except that I liked running. It agreed with me, and I was good at it. But I had failed to find an escape route out of the neighborhood. I decided to take a different approach. I needed to join AAA even though I didn't drive. I needed to study the maps. I needed to be able to spot the signs ahead of everyone else. Almost every Jew in Europe and almost every person in the world had missed the signs when Hitler and his friends slipped into the elected offices in Germany. How was I supposed to be any better at reading the national tea leaves than everyone else? Thank you.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful, Elan.
Thank you.
Elan Barnahama, thanks for being with us here tonight. Our penultimate reader is Zvi A. Sesling, Brookline, Massachusetts former poet laureate, has published poems, flash fictions, and short stories. He edits 10 by 10. Several of you have mentioned in your bios being published there. Well, Zvi is the man. 10 by 10 flash fiction is he's a 5-time Pushcart Prize nominee and a flash fiction a flash fiction Pushcart nominee. Flash fiction books include Secrets Behind the Gate, Wheels, and 40 Stories, co-authored with Paul Beckman. Sesling lives in Brookline, Massachusetts with his wife, Susan J. Decter. Zvi A. Sesling.
Thank you, Francine, and also to Paul, because I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the two of you. So I'm going to read two stories. One is under 300 words and one is under 800, so it won't be that long. The first one is called He Was a Student of the Old Days. Clayton was always fascinated by the Neanderthals. That fascination became even more gripping to him when he had his DNA studied and was delighted to learn that his ancestry included South Africa, Tunisia, Spain, France, England, and included 2% DNA from Neanderthals. That would explain my fondness for working in construction and my great physical strength, he thought. Clayton owned a small one-bedroom cottage where his love of cavemen led to his outfitting his place like a cave. It was near the Storm King hiking trails where he hiked the area 3 times a week unless he was supervising the constructions of homes in the area. Whenever he hiked, he carried a baseball bat for self-defense in the event he encountered a cougar or a bear. He had learned that from reading early books about Neanderthals. The book said male Neanderthals carried clubs to hunt animals, defend themselves against beasts and other males. If they clubbed a female Neanderthal, they carried it back to their cave. Proposition Clayton found quite exciting. One morning, a few minutes into his walk, he encountered a young lady wearing slacks tucked into her socks, a long-sleeved jersey, and a man's brown, broad-rimmed hat. The outfit protected against ticks and other insects. "Is this the way to the parking lot?" she asked. "Yes, over there, a quarter of a mile." Clayton looked around. No one was within sight. The woman had turned to leave when Clayton hit her over the head with a baseball bat. She fell to the ground. He picked her up, carried her back to his cottage, placed her on his bed. Those Neanderthal men were pretty smart, he told himself. Thank you. So that's one. The other one, this story is called Fade Out in Waxahachie, Texas. And there really is such a city. I had been driving from Dallas exploring what else there was in rural Texas besides the big city where I was staying when I entered what looked like an old western town. There was a small park between the street I was driving on a line of stores and a saloon on the other side. I circled the park and stopped in front of a saloon, cafe, and an antique store. Hunger won, and I had the iced tea and a pecan pie loaded with molasses and pecans and a thick pie crust and a scoop of vanilla ice cream. I have to admit this place knew how to make it, as good as any I had eaten in Alabama or Mississippi. When I finished eating, I wandered out to the street and felt drawn to the Waxahachie Antique Emporium. I opened the door, stepped into the air-conditioned store, leaving the Texas August heat behind me. Almost immediately, I heard her voice welcoming me to the store. She had red hair to her shoulders, aquamarines for eyes, breasts that pressed against her blouse, fighting to show themselves, yet failing to escape. Her smile revealed straight teeth with a perfect whiteness, while her mouth, surrounded by red lipstick, emitted an accent that took in the whole of Texas with gentle kindness. She told me she was the antique store owner and waved her hand around the inside of the building. She told me the building had been a bordello from 1879 to 1906, then laughed and said they sold a different kind of product back then. I smiled, nodded, and told her I was hunting for antiques, a gift from my friend with whom I was staying. Not your wife, she asked. I'm single. Well, divorced, I told her. Same thing, she responded, and we both laughed. We were standing in a large room on the first floor, the former bordello parlor, she told me with a sly smile. Behind us, she pointed to a staircase leading to a display balcony. Up there, she explained, was where the prostitutes stood in red dresses and black garters, hinting their wares. An archway to the right led to the private rooms. My eyes rose to see the white railing and two old-fashioned beds covered in quilts and pillows. Each bed had an end table on top of which was an oil lamp, probably from the 1800s. She accompanied me up the half dozen stairs to the balcony, where there was also a hutch with glass doors. I looked over the antique glassware in the hutch and the chair near the brass bed with a red velvet spread. There was a rocker near the other bed that was covered by the quilt. Through the door, she said, pointing to 4 rooms, were where the ladies entertained their male companions. The few lucky ones married a customer, others retired with a good poke to start a life elsewhere, while the unlucky ones either got disease and died or were beat up. Those women ended up living on the street or in the livery, working for food and tending to horses. After the history lesson, I selected a large glass bowl with 4 matching drinking glasses that the owner brought downstairs to the counter, where she placed my selections while I wandered the first floor looking for other items on display. She stayed close and I could smell her perfume, something sweet, but with a hint of citrus. It was the kind that would stay in the nose's memory for a long time, as would the feel of her body when I stopped short and she bumped into me. I found a serving dish that matched the bowl and glasses and handed it to her, saying I was done shopping. She moved to the counter and we stood with it between us, while I joked that it must be an antique computer instead of a cash register. She smiled and rang up the sale, wrapping each item separately in an old Waxahachie Times newspaper, and then placed all of them in two large bags which showed the storefront and town name. I pulled out my wallet, took out two 100 bills, got change, and prepared to leave. But she moved from behind the counter and came next to me. She asked how long I'd be in town. I told her maybe a couple hours, but in Dallas another week. Only a week, she said, sounding disappointed, and I could see that her interest had suddenly faded out like old book covers. The moment passed, the opportunity given way to thought, thought to realization, and I knew it was time to move on. Thank you.
Great stories, Zvi A. Sesling. Thank you for reading for us tonight. Now, to close out this evening of just gorgeous, gorgeous words and stories is Lucinda Kempe. Kempe's work is forthcoming in Gargoyle, Salvage, China, Myville Editor. The McNeese Review, Soflo Pojo, Unbroken Journal, Bull, Gooseberry Pie, New Flash Fiction Review, and Centaur, among other places. An excerpt of her memoir was shortlisted for the Fish Memoir Prize in April 2021. She lives on Long Island, where she exorcises with words. Lucinda Kempe.
Hi, everybody. I loved hearing you. It was great. It was everybody was wonderful, and I'm like exhausted. It's like I should just stop. I was going to read a very wrenching political piece, and then I thought, no, you're not. We've had enough of that. So I'm reading a 500 word piece, and then a 96 word piece. This is called Love Be Do. Her bees buzzed around her naked skull, giving her an afro. She loved her bees, but it was exhausting explaining the state of her hairs to everyone. So naturally, she was anxious about meeting a new friend, one she'd only met online. Then she saw him floating in her direction until he hovered in front of her. Her bee-doo droned in alarm. He was so tall that when he leaned down and smiled at her, the bees leaned too. I like your hair, he said. It's not really hair. I'm bald, she said, whispering to the bees who moved off to the side, exposing her shiny scalp. Honesty was one of her best qualities. Plus, she didn't want to be disappointed again when this new guy discovered her deficit. Oh, I can see myself, he said, swirling around her shiny skull. Her skull looked like the earth as seen from the moon. It was blue and green and bathed in cumulus clouds. Your head is a planet. It contains multitudes, he said. You are a flatterer, she said, privately pleased. No, I tell it like I see it, and I've seen much because of my height. Tell me what happened to your feet. The moment she said feet, he stopped hovering and landed on the ground with a shuddering thud. Stumps were where his feet should have been. He hung his head, which was covered in soft green lichen. People reject me, he said, straightening. Fat tears rolled down his cheeks and rained on her head, now absent of bees, who hated the rain and had flown off to their beehive, where they rested when off bee duty. His stumps reminded her of the Louisiana cypress trunks in the bayou where she'd grown up. The cypresses were resilient and water resistant. She gazed up at this tall, sexy giant, absent feet. It's hard being diverse. Others persecuted me for being different. You have lovely hair. May I? He lowered his head. She reached out and ran her fingertips through the spiky greenness. As she touched his hair, she felt his fingers on her skull. A tenderness passed between them they'd never experienced. Looking into each other's eyes, they recognized their singularity, neurodiversity, and that their anomalies were in appearance only. They got married in the bayou, surrounded by dozens of other different folk like them. They drank sparkling apple juice and had angel food cake and pumpkin tart, leaving the leftovers for the swamp creatures. In time, she discovered she could live without hiding under her bees. And he discovered he could root himself to the earth without fear of rejection. And they went on to have goblin children with beehive hair and feet that never needed shoes to oppress them. And the bees were delighted since they'd gotten into a habit of bee doos, which became so popular that kids with hair shaved their heads so they could have one too. This is called Comic. The atelier was noisy. She wanted to say something, but she didn't like confrontations. Suddenly, a Donald Hall, 82 years young man came in and positioned his crumpled khakis, askew tie, wild hair, and Gandalf beard. The look one journalist called a yeti behind an easel. The sound, a startling rudder, stopped her mid-stroke, like a turkey gurgle, or the ululations of a bereft widow, or a zealous saint relishing the lash upon their back. A howl with a trilling quality, a lamentation, a rebuke, sleight of hand via uvula, so different from a finger wagging, "Quiet down, you squirts." Delighted, she continued her comic. In 2010, a photo of 82-year-old Hall getting the Medal of Arts in Washington. Getting the Medal of Arts, Washington Post columnist Alexander Petrie wrote for readers to caption the picture, "Donald Hall is not, in fact, a Yeti." In his book, Essays After 80, Hall rebuked the journalist using humor.
Thank you so much, Lucinda. I'm sorry?
No, I said you're welcome. Yeah, no
Oh,
drama.
I didn't know if you had another one there. Okay, so, Lucinda Kempe, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. That was two great stories. Well, this brings us to a close, and it's been just a wonderful, wonderful array of stories. And I thank all of you for being here. I want to give a special thank you to Paul Beckman for being here. It's the reason we're all here, right? He is the creator of FBOMB, and it was great to hear you tonight, Paul. So thank you to the readers, Amy Marques, Paul Beckman, Kathryn Silver-Hajo, Gary Fincke, Christopher Bowen, Chelsea Stickle, Andrea Marcusa, Elan Barnahama, Zvi A, Sesling, and Lucinda Kempe. You're all wonderful. I'll be posting this either later tonight or tomorrow. Tomorrow we're supposed to have some North Pole air. That's where it's coming from. The air tomorrow is coming from the North Pole. And it's supposed to be like really cold. So what better thing to do than to put the recording together? So it'll probably go up tomorrow afternoon. But I want to thank you all for being here, the readers and the lovely listeners in the Zoom room. We'll be back in March, probably the second week, because I'm going to AWP, so I'll be there. And anyway, thank you all, and drive safely. Good night, Francine Witte from New York City.
Don't forget to root for the Patriots Sunday.
Well, okay. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Paul, nice to see you, Paul. Bye.
Good night. Thank you, Francine.